Have you ever bought a sheet of 12 by 12 paper full of 3 by 4 cut-aparts because it would make such cute, quick cards? Well, today's the day we actually cut it up and make those cute, quick cards. Hi, I'm Jess from JessCrafts.com, and I'm going to help you make the most of your crafty supplies and time. So let's get started. Today I am starting with just one of those pieces of paper. I picked this up at a local scrapbooking store because I thought these little elements from Doodlebug were so cute. It's part of the Doodlebug Cute and Crafty line, so it makes cards great for your crafty friends. But this template will work with literally any set of 3x4 journaling cards that you've got. The 12 by 12 template number 11 will be linked on the coordinating blog post so that you can download it and use it, and it shows you how to use a 12 by 12 piece of paper with the 3 by 4 elements without creating any scraps. However, a couple caveats. It does require you to cut up some of those 3 by 4 cards. If you do not want to cut up some of the 3 by 4 cards, that's okay. You can get extra paper to do the little strip that goes in the bottom. But I wanted to show you that you could create without leaving any scraps and use the 3 by 4 cards. And the reason that I felt okay cutting apart some of them is because in my experience, I will pick up a paper that has them, and there's 12 of them, but often I don't love all 12. There are some that have sayings that don't make sense for me, or they're just words and they maybe don't have a picture, and so I don't like that as much on a card. And so I felt confident that most of the time I could pick 3 of the 12 that I didn't actually want to use anyway, or I was fine giving up. But if you do want to use them all for their sort of A side with the 3 by 4 cut apart, you can get extra paper. You'd have to make multiples in order to have no scraps left, but I think you can handle that and figure that out if that's how you want to do it. Now, you cut out the 3 by 4s, and then you choose 3 of them and you cut them into 1 by 4 inch strips. And you take that 1 by 4 inch strip, and I'm calling for you to cut a little bit of a banner out of it. And if you cut this little banner, I mean, technically, I guess those are scraps. I don't really consider those scraps, because to me, scraps are like things I feel like I need to use in the future, not obvious trash. And to me, those little bits are obvious trash. So what I do is I took my scissor and I cut from in the middle about 1/2 inch in. Then I cut from the 2 sides, and I find that to make the fastest way and most consistent way to make a border. So you cut down the center and then from the sides to create that little cut. There's other ways of doing it. You can use like a punch or something. I find the scissor just super quick. A couple of these journaling cards have sayings that I don't want to use, and so I set aside the ones that have sayings I don't want to use, and I picked a banner die from my most used banners that would cover all 3 of them so that I didn't have to keep thinking about it. I would just pick one and use it for all of them. Then the sketch calls for you to mat the 3 by 4 card, but not the 1 by 4 inch banner that goes in the background. Now, if you want to mat the banner in the background, absolutely go for it. You totally can. You just have to, then when you cut that little banner piece, you have to do the same thing with the mat. That's a little bit more tricky and a little bit harder for me to give measurements for. Plus, it will come really close to the edge of the card because your paper is already 4 inches long, and a card, standard A2 size card, which I call for this, is only 4 1/4. So if you want that little bit of breathing room for your strip, you're not going to want to add a mat there. The mats for the 3 1/4 cards are really easy to cut from 8.5 by 11 paper, because if you cut it at 3 1/4 along the 11 inch side, then you're left with a 3 1/4 by 8.5 inch piece. Cut that in half, that's 4 1/4. You're not going to have many cardstock scraps either, which is pretty awesome. I did need a couple of little banners to stamp some sentiments to cover the ones I didn't want to use, and as you can see, I just cut that out of the middle of the mats for my 3 by 4 cut aparts. Not all of them have that cut out of the center, and in general, you can do that. Like if you want to save on your cardstock, especially if you're using good cardstock or like more expensive cardstock. Mine happens to be Michael's from Recollections from Michael's, so it's a little bit on the cheaper side, but still, if you want to save some money, anytime you're cutting a big old mat like this, that's, you're going to be covered by this 3x4 card, it's a great time to cut out some small elements like banners for sentiments or like ovals and little squares for, different elements. And I find that a little bit fussy because then I have to keep track of all of those banners that I've cut out. So I don't do it very often, but I know if I know I'm going to use them in the same project, I often will do that. Cut it out of the center. Okay, so this is a very, very clean and simple card, and it has a lot of white space. You may not want so much white space in your card. A suggestion that has been suggested to me, sorry, a little awkward way of phrasing that, is embossing the background. And I always hesitated on that because I find it a little bit difficult to adhere things to an embossed background, but also a lot of embossing folders I found a little bit tricky to use because they don't always cover the entire front of a card. Sometimes they're just a little bit smaller. However, Spellbinders came out recently with these really big embossing folders that are 5.5 by 8.5, maybe even bigger than that. They'll be linked in the video description. You can see them. But it works for 5x7 cards, slimline cards, A2 size cards, and it gives you so much extra space. So I embossed a few of the fronts of my cards with that. And if you go look at the blog post, it'll also give you a still picture where you can see like an embossed card and a plain background so you can kind of see which one maybe suits you better. I also had some of the cut-aparts were vertical instead of horizontal. The sketch that comes with the template is for a vertical card. Because for a horizontal card, you can totally do it. It's not a big deal. You don't have to really cut anything different except for you need to stretch the banner all the way across the behind that 3x4, and it's going to be 4.25 inches. So you cut it and you just kind of keep it lined up and pull it across the card, and then you stick it down, and it works out perfectly that way too, just that little extra step. And I wanted to point that out because I didn't include that sketch just because of the extra step being a little hard to explain in a sketch because I can't really show you what's underneath, but you can do it with no matter which way your 3x4 element cards are facing. Okay, I want to add some sentiments that I'm going to use to cover the sentiments that didn't work for me in the 3x4 cards I chose. So I picked some Spanish sentiments from an MFT stamp set just because when I donate my cards, a lot of times they do ask for cards in other languages if possible. And Spanish is a common one that's requested. So I will leave you, and there's always a link in the video description to where you can donate your cards. So if you're interested in finding out how you can bless other people with your cards, I will have that linked in the video description for you to check out, and it'll link you to different sources. So I have created 9 cards super, super quickly. I've used up that whole 12x12 piece of pattern paper. If you found this video inspiring, here's another video where you can find more ideas for enjoying your crafty time and supplies. Let me know you like this video with a share to your crafty community, subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss the next template or tutorial, and check the video description for product links. See you in the next video.